We are live.
Thanks. I'm Greg Edwards, I'm the chair of the tree board. This is one of our quarterly tree board meetings on April 9th. We can go around the table and introduce ourselves. Starting this one.
Dominic Rizzo, tree board member.
I'm Karen Mary's daughter, tree board member.
Dan Aruda, City of Bangor Forestry Manager.
Aaron Hootery, Public Works.
And Annette will be joining us in like 10 minutes. She was delayed on her way. First item is approval of last meeting's minutes from January 8th.
I would just like to ask, are we allowed to approve anything if we don't have a quorum? And do we have a quorum the way it is? I don't. What's that?
We only have 4 members, so
Right.
there's 3 of us. That's a quorum.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, and I think that there's some discussion going on at council right now, but as of right now, advisory committee, we're good to proceed
Yeah.
regardless.
I just wanted to double check.
Yeah.
We probably don't even have to approve our own minutes, but we can and we will.
Exactly.
It'll be good to know if there are glaring errors, but
Yeah.
I didn't. see
Yeah, it
any.
helps me to make some changes if
Yeah,
necessary.
I didn't see any.
Okay.
So moved.
All right,
I'll second.
all in favor? Unanimous. Forestry division numbers.
All right, so this is just a brief recap of everything Forestry Division has done for the first quarter of 2025. Resident service requests, those are requests we received through SeaClick Fix, the new service request system. Winter is typically slow as far as receiving requests for trees. Trees are dormant, they don't have leaves. Typically residents are not known to, understand whether a tree is dead or not based on not having leaves. It's not as prevalent. So this quarter, we completed 10 SeaClick Fix requests. Did not get too many other requests, so there's not a whole lot to do there. In doing so, we were able to catch up on previously planned work. So that looked like paving, fruit tree, and brown tail moth pruning of trees. So what Forestry Division is responsible for is going ahead of the paving crews based on paving list and pruning over roads and sidewalks, the appropriate right-of-way heights, which is 14 feet over roads and then 8 feet over sidewalks. And then just ensuring that the equipment can actually lay down pavement within the footprint of the right-of-way. So fruit tree pruning, that involves sucker pruning of crabapple trees, cherry trees, just making them look nice versus more bush-like. Brown tail moth pruning, really not a whole lot this year. We'll touch on that later, I'm sure. But in all told, we were able to prune 263 trees in the first quarter. So, tree removals, we had 2 completed by a contractor. One was maple and garland, a large Norway maple, I believe over 40 inches in diameter. It was planted directly below a transmission line, and as such had been pruned over the years into a nice shape that resembles like a menorah, more branches, no strong central leader. So it was removed because the branches were hollow, beginning to fall into the street, and were not of clearance height. Another was Cross Insurance Center that was damaged 2023 when Hurricane Lee went through. That one broke in half. Another unhealthy Norway maple tree, and contractor finally got around to taking down that tree.
That's the one down by the Paul Bunyan statue?
Yes.
Okay.
Right in front of Paul. Let's see, 3 for the forestry crew. So we did more removals, obviously, but these are principal esplanade trees or trees within parks. East Broadway, we removed 2 sugar maples, which were infected with armillaria root rot disease, which causes central part of the tree to rot from the roots out, and then causes no central leader in the tree to be productive. And it's just kind of like a wet rot. So the wood was very, very wet and, state of decline. So those two were removed. And recently we removed a principal tree over at Williams Park, which was previously split in half in the upper canopy. And it had about a 3-foot seam straight through the middle of the tree. That was an ash tree. So that was removed. We also completed cleanup work in Prentice Woods and other wooded parks in tandem with Parks and Rec.
Sounds good. The Arbor Day activities.
Yeah, so normally we do Arbor Day on the National Arbor Day, which this year would be April 25th. But that ends up being during a school vacation week, and we generally do these during school, so there's not a lot of students there at that point. They requested that we choose another time, so we thought that Maine Arbor Week would be a good week to do it, so we're going to reschedule for the week of May 19th through the 23rd. Ben proactively reached out to 14th Street School. They enthusiastically accepted our offer to involve their students, so we'll be kind of finishing up the details. Did they have a tree?
They had 2 trees previously removed in about 2022.
That's right.
So the donated tree will get replanted in that large opening over by 14th Street.
Right in front of the school, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to use a bigger tree. And he believes that one of the trees that was donated by Plants Unlimited,
Yes.
a larger caliper tree will be a nice fit for there, so. It's nice to have those donations there available to us for something like this.
Also, there was a sugar maple planted at Fairmount School around the back just before the pandemic, I think. Do you know how that's doing?
I don't.
Yeah, it was right next to the garden, and I haven't done the garden there the last few years. So I was wondering if it survived.
That was before my time too,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure.
Okay. Vincent Road nursery plans. How's the nursery?
So nursery is going great, slowly but great. We're making strides. We did get grant funding approval from Maine Forest Service, which supplies a grant through Maine Audubon for the disbursement of funds to set up infrastructure for Vincent Road Nursery. Vincent Road Nursery is going to be just under an acre, looking to install 10 gravel bed nursery beds and drill a well and then have electricity brought to the site to enable that well to run and then water. It was just not feasible to tap into the city water main and then pay a water bill for a nursery.
We did meet with Audubon last month and kind of went over all that. We've gotten all the quotes and everything. And at that point, it was just making sure that the money was still available. There had been a freeze on some of the grant funding. And we received the word last week that that's freed up. So we're good to move forward. At this point, I'm just making sure that there's funding available at the city because we have to pay first, then get reimbursed.
Right.
So just kind of working out those internal details on that.
Okay. Where are the plants that we've gotten donated living right now?
They are in winter storage at Public Works Yard.
Okay.
So they're not feeling any deer pressure.
Great.
They're right by the cardboard disposal, so there's plenty of noise. No one's be seeing deer munching on them, and that was the issue with Vincent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I assume there will be a fence.
Yes, yeah, there
That's
will be
the
a,
green line.
yep, there will be an 8-foot tall poly deer fence with a entrance gate going down that road to allow equipment in and out. Cool.
Sounds good. Spring tree planting, that would be the city's.
Yeah.
Planting.
So springtime, this spring will be a bit leaner due to kind of our heavy spring planting in the fall. I'm still working off that original budget, so we don't have a very large budget, but we're looking to plant probably around 10 to 12 trees this spring. And then this is where the nursery comes in to kind of lessen that planting cost, right? Where we could get, bare root stock at a fraction of the price.
Exactly.
than B&D.
Okay. Jeff, do you happen to know any of the species you're gonna be planting?
We are going to be planting pretty much standard magnolia. I believe there is a butternut. And then prairie fire crabapple. White pine. We've one spruce.
Where are you putting the white pine?
White pine is going in Chapin Park
Okay,
in a vacant spot.
yeah, we definitely need more evergreens, and if you can
Yes.
put them in parks, that would help give us a little more green to look at in the winter.
Mhm.
Other thoughts before we move on? Sorry, I just came from a meeting where we had to end at 5:15, so we were like moving along at a fast clip. And I wanna make sure we.
Oh, that's good. We
get
get-
everything.
A lot to talk about
Yeah.
it too, so.
Okay,
I'd love to hear more about the nursery, but if we have time, I'll ask questions.
The spring planting, when's that gonna be?
Looking to probably start in about 2 weeks.
Okay,
There is still a small layer of frost
Yeah.
in the ground.
Bangor Beautiful Spring Tree Planting, we had a suggested date of May 16th, it's a Friday, there's only 12 trees, so I was saying 9 to 11, if that works for you folks. I just sent in my request to Sprague's just to get some pricing. I'll probably reach out to some of the other nurseries so that we have an actual dollar total to send to GovOps in 2 weeks.
yeah, so I am on vacation and it'll go to infrastructure. Yeah, but it'll be on the 23rd. And Ben is gonna be there. Jefferson will present it, but Ben's there to answer any questions that come up.
Okay, if I don't get pricing, we will estimate based on
Yeah.
last year's prices so that you at least have a
Yeah.
number. to
Yeah,
present.
just so I can get it. I would wanna have that written by next Wednesday,
Okay,
as long as I had those. I'm at a conference Monday, Tuesday, so if I had them Wednesday morning, that'd be great. Okay, cool.
So if I signed up on the volunteer list, I'll get notice confirming this May 16th.
yes. Once I get around to responding to all the volunteer signups.
And there is one question I had about that,
Yeah,
the spring planting.
yep,
Black walnut.
yeah, do you want butternut instead?
Butternut does produce less nuts than black walnut. That's my only concern, since there is street side parking
Right,
right below it.
and it's
And
also,
black walnuts are pretty big.
okay,
That's my only concern.
and butternut's slightly, that's like 30 to, or 40 to 50 feet.
I'm just speaking about the litter that comes once the
Right.
trees are not producing age.
Yeah,
I love black walnut trees.
okay,
Some residents who park them.
yeah, do you have a different tree you would prefer?
Butternut is good.
Okay.
It does not produce as many nuts as black walnut.
Trying to see if,
It's also known as white walnut.
I think our plan is in this giant packet. We can write on
We don't have,
It is in
we
there.
don't have any
somewhere.
thoughts about using all those black walnuts if we hadn't. Who eats them? Who eats black walnuts? Squirrels? Squirrels, huh? Probably not encouraging a whole lot.
Yeah, it's also, it's the like buffer between, a private parking lot and
Yeah.
street parking. So there's the possibility of getting complaints from both sides.
Well, it would be slippery on the sidewalk too,
Yeah,
you know, I'm aware of that, but
There's sidewalk on that side?
isn't there?
I don't think so.
I don't think
Oh,
so.
no, it's on the other
Yeah,
side.
on the
No,
other
right, it's
side,
on
yeah.
the other side.
okay, so these three butternut, I will email Sprague's tomorrow and let them know. Okay. Moving on to Bangor Beautiful and Friends of Lower Kenduskeag Extreme. We're doing an invasive plant management project. We've been working on it for, about a year now. We got a plan written by a state forester who also specializes in, the state was giving out a bunch of grant money for landowners to do these invasive management control plans. So he basically did one of those for us for the Kenduskeag Stream, and it's really bad. Like it's full of invasives. It'll never be free of invasives, but we've come up with a plan to start working and tackling certain areas to get a little more native plants in there and a few less invasives that will continue to spread elsewhere.
The report is impressive. I
Yeah.
have to say.
Yeah, thank you for all the work you put into it.
Yeah.
And
And we
a
also,
lot of work.
yeah, well, also there, we have a GIS specialist from, I think she works with the EPA who created the map, which was, this is the first like actual GIS map of all of the parcels that make up Kenduskeag Stream Plan. The last map that was drawn was in the seventies. It's hand drawn. It's beautiful, but it's really hard to, work with. So we've got some nice groundwork laid, and we've got funding, through Bangor Green Drinks to start doing some treatments this month, and we'll be continuing to treat, through the spring, and we'll see where the budget takes us. Addressing the worst areas first, and concentrating, especially behind, the area of In-Town Plaza, which is right near where we are today. And we're gonna try to, we've ordered native plants to put in place, to create a little bit of a native food forest and replace some of the trees that will get taken down. We're staying away from most of the bigger established like Norway maples and black locust, just because they're so prolific. If you took all of them down, there would be no trees. So he did identify, 3 trees, which weren't actually like there was no picture in the plan, but I went out, we were doing soil testing, this Monday. And we've identified 3 large mature Norway maples, one of which has a very large piece of storm damage, and the other 2 are sort of centrally located in these established garden beds. That if we could get them added to the city's list of trees to take down, would create a lot of light in the area to let some of the new stuff we're planting become more established. And it would they'd produce less seeds, and we'd have to be fighting fewer saplings of these Norway maples. So other than updating you about the project, that is a request coming from folks and Bangor Beautiful, if we could get these trees looked at and possibly taken out.
Do you know what this is?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you wanna go look after the meeting, I'm more than happy to. Yes, the one with storm damage is a clear
Yeah.
one to take out, but the other 2 are healthy, just,
They're right over here behind the plaza?
Yeah.
Is that where they're, okay.
Excuse me.
and we'd be happy to have the debris from it left, and then we could use it in some of our remediation efforts. We're planning some things like, dead hedges, which are, hedges made of just like debris stacked together, because we're gonna have a lot of like cut, not barberry, what's the,
Not weed.
not weed, buckthorn. We're gonna have a lot of cut buckthorn that instead of, hauling the debris off, if we put it together in a dead hedge, it can act as an erosion control and habitat for insects.
I imagine it's brought up in the plan. I did not have a chance to read the plan. As far as conducting removals in the shoreland area without creating a violation, has that been addressed?
It's mentioned in here, that is why we're not taking out large amounts of canopy,
Okay.
because we just want to steer clear of, if there's a very precise calculation on what is allowed in the shoreline area. So our plan is to cut like very small saplings, but leave larger ones, with the exception of these 3. And I think these, if we just take out 3, we could probably do the calculation.
Okay.
But that is why we're not choosing to take out the locusts and the Norway maples, is because of you don't want to reduce the canopy in the shoreline zone.
Okay.
But also, if you want to help us do that calculation.
Yep.
Cause it's like so many,
25 by 25 foot grids, and it's
Okay.
8 points.
Right.
Fresh water.
yeah, that is a consideration. I think he mentions it, but doesn't specifically talk. Yeah, talked about like code enforcement approval, or,
And I imagine with them being state recognized invasive species, I'm sure there is some leeway. I can't
Yeah.
speak for it.
I don't think it's written into the code, but it feels like there should be. And that's why we're planting so many new things to go in their place, so that as these start to grow up, we could maybe take out a few more as more canopy is established that's actually native.
Is that what the criteria in terms of the shoreland zoning, it's canopy and erosion control? Those are the things that they're looking at. So if you are replacing it, then that's helpful for
Oh, yes.
the powers that be to know about.
Right. Okay,
I think I sent you the article about the goats in Pittsburgh.
yes, I
I
love,
was just looking up, goats do eat knotweed.
yeah, no, I know, if there was goatscaping around, the closest goatscapers are about an hour away. And if we had goatscapers in Bangor, I would have already contacted them and sent them. Or
We
tried
need
to
to
send them,
encourage goatscapers in Bangor.
there's some great spots for it, cause they'd be great on those like steep banks. Where we've got knotweed, but nobody wants to climb down over that hill to treat it.
How do they keep them in? I think they do temporary fencing.
Yeah.
But this one place in Pittsburgh, they also had a donkey that stayed with them. The donkey was their guard donkey. It was a lovely story. If I find it again, I'll send it to you.
Another reason to support local agriculture is
Yeah, yeah.
actually use them for invasive remediation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on to seedlings and compost.
It's a nice plan, though, the invasive.
Oh,
I like
it's a
that.
wonderful
Thank you.
one.
Appreciate it. So yeah, we intend to do another seedling and compost event this year. May 30th and 31st, which is a Friday and Saturday. We'll have our fresh compost there. We still have some compost left from last year, but we'll bring over the fresh compost and have a little, social media around it and that type of thing. Public Health, I believe, has a small grant for outreach. And they intend to do a tick management kind of table set up, just informational table. And we do have some seedlings on order
Yes.
to give away, plus we hope to get some from the state when we go down to the state's event as well. So, yeah, hoping that goes as well. We did get the compost tested for composition at University of Maine last fall, and then the students did their bioassay over the winter. I have not heard that came out poorly, so. So yeah, we should be on track to keep that moving. We do have last year's leaves set up in windrows. We did one windrow with horse manure from the racetrack. Just wood chips, 6-inch base of wood chips, horse manure on the chips, and then the leaves on top, and haven't turned them. The temperatures this winter, when it was quite cold, were quite high, so it really gave them a jump start. We're hoping to reduce that compost time on that, but time will tell. We just keep tracking the data at this point.
I'm sorry, what was the date again?
May 30th and 31st. We'll do 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Friday and 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday. And we're not helping people load trucks, but we do have employees there just managing traffic and stuff. It was nice. I came over for a couple hours and just talking with people. Very positive event last year, so hope for the same.
It seems to me, I talked to the city once about city compost for the school gardens and was told then that for vegetables, it was not appropriate. Is that not the
We do
case?
not make that determination. That would be up to the individuals.
Ah.
I have it in my vegetable garden, but
Mhm.
I did not get it tested.
Uh-huh.
I don't, there is, this is roadside litter. This is, stuff that residents are dropping off. We find a lot of trash in it, and we try to screen that, but I think we're using a 3-inch screen or something like that. Wrappers and bottle caps do get through. I have no idea what effect. It's thousands of dollars to get it tested for anything. Yeah,
So you don't know what to tell a school garden?
nope.
No.
I would say use it at your own risk. I would think that it's in a school area, I would be more cautious than normal. A lot of people are using in flower beds only,
Okay.
hearing that anecdotally. But my beds got full of it last year and it was kind of, it really enriched it. I don't have the best growing beds.
You
so.
haven't keeled over yet.
I have not keeled over, but probably that would be one of the least, not just things I put in my body, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
moving on to resident tree removal requests.
So. I think. We review the tree, review the data that we have, the resident is here. I think at that point, we invite the resident up to make a statement.
Okay.
And then. Move forward like we normally do at
Yeah.
that point. Okay, good, just wanted to make sure we're on the same.
And as a reminder, like the rule is you guys get to make the decision. We decide whether or not we think that decision should be.
Correct. Whether
Decided
you would
against.
recommend
Yeah,
that we.
and then it goes to
Vary
city
from the
council,
ordinance, yes,
right.
yeah.
All right. So this particular tree is located outside the home at 379 Essex Street. It is a 27.1 inch diameter Norway maple planted in the Esplanade, the grassy area between the road and the sidewalk. The concerns that were brought up were the resident is afraid the tree is rotten on the inside, not visible from the outside, as well as blowing over into the home due to its large size and close proximity. There was also concerns in regards to solar panel array potentially in the future being placed on the roof, and then the tree being in the way of the sun for those. I went to the tree, met with the resident, conducted a tree inspection, and my inspection is attached to that packet. The tree is a typical street planted tree. It has been pruned vertically for road and sidewalk clearance. It does have two tops, so that is what is classified as codominant. So that is not a super strong structure. So the tree has two tops at about 10 feet in the air where it splits, and there's additional pictures there. So it's pretty much two prominent tops in the tree. And those tops have not caused a crack, but there is what's called included bark. So it's a seam from where the trees split. And then the tree has sealed over the wounds where that split has occurred, to prevent infection and disease. From my initial observation, there was no visible crack into the tree. It had been sealed over. The tree has been pruned away from the electrical lines, and my offer was to remove the large extending branches both over the street and then over the residence home and driveway to lessen the impact that the public tree is having on private property.
How would, if you were to do that, how would the health of that tree be in the future? Like if you removed what you said?
If we remove what we said, there is really only, I believe, 4 branches that would be coming out from the tree. The branches are what I would classify and the ISA would classify as overextended. They are about 6 to 8 inches in diameter and probably 40 to 30 feet long, reaching out over the driveway and then out over the home. So that would alleviate some of the weight, but still leave the upper canopy untouched.
But this, the worry about it being rotten in the center, there's no way of assessing that, or you?
There
ruled it
is,
out,
I
or-
can, take a core sample from the inside of the tree using an increment core, which I have not done, but I can do.
Is there anything that leads you to believe that it would be
Yeah.
rotten inside?
Nothing other than the fact that it is a codominant tree, which has a tendency to hold water.
Gotcha.
And then during freeze thaw cycles, areas that you can't see from the ground could open up and water and leaves could collect in there. There is superficial moss growing on the tree just because it's shaded. It's not a parasitic moss, it's just your everyday lichen. It's not an indicator of rot.
So your recommendation is to remove the overextended branches which coincide with the residents' request to not have them over the house,
Correct,
but not necessarily for full removal of the tree.
correct.
Would this tree be, if we were to go in that direction, would this tree be on the list of trees that you would check every so often? Just to make certain that there
Yes.
isn't rot or,
That would be on quarterly inspection. And I have calendar reminders based on when the tree was inspected. Every 3 months to go out and re-inspect them.
Any other questions before we have the resident come up and speak?
Thanks for coming today. We appreciate it. This is Gwendolyn. I met her just before the meeting, so I can introduce her.
I appreciate Mr. Tree Hugger coming out and really taking a good look. But there's two trees and they're identical. And one's on the other side of my driveway, and that one's there. And the trees get way too much water is one of their problems. I don't know anything about trees, other than some have leaves and some don't. But I think that's where the mossy stuff comes in and stuff, because they get way too much water. And I think that's what's speeding up the whole thing here. I've seen that tree when I bought the house, and it was, not very old. It was one of the ones that you kind of just hadn't planted. Might have been there a few years, but it hadn't really taken a good growth. And I watched it grow over the years. And, there has been every time there's a storm, these branches come off it and come down. And if you get a bad storm, I mean, they go in the car. One car almost went off the road and into my neighbor's house because the branch happened to fall as he was going into it. And I was surprised. He was fine, the car was fine, the neighbors weren't home. But I don't see it as being an asset to anything but just worry and misery. And if you're asleep at night and you wake up to a storm, you're saying, I don't even know if I want to look out the window because it's so tall. And there's always branches coming down, and they're pretty good sized branches. They're like this big around, and then it branches out. They're either on my property or in the road, one or the other. I don't see the necessity there when he could put one of his beautiful trees in its place. I don't see the necessity terrorizing me, a human being, over a tree. I've spoke on this before, but not at a meeting.
So Bangor has chosen to be a tree city and.
Well, I see your trees. Don't even get me onto your trees. 99.9% of them are horrible. they're dying, the bark is coming off. There
99.9%, but so
are a lot of them, I mean, all, people, they're on each side of the road, they're all through Bangor. They're horrible, there's nothing you'd wanna look at.
Okay.
They're great for Halloween, but other than that, there's no, I don't see any use for them.
Okay, we appreciate your feedback and your input on this decision. Thank you.
Righty? No. You know.
Was there something else that you wanted to add beyond what you did?
I just think for all the effort that you put into trees and it sure does look, that you love trees and you love what you do and you love your work and everything. But you step outside the door and you go up and down any of these streets that are on hills and stuff, and Bangor is just built on hills, you know, down, and I don't think the flow of the water is doing them any good.
Ms. Julian, do you have any other feedback on this particular tree that you wanted to share with us that you haven't already?
Well, I do see cracks in it, and I do see problems with it, and,
Mr. Aruda is a licensed forester that's trained to look at these things and perform these assessments.
well, I
and make
know,
a
he did
determination.
tell me, he did tell me.
He's not just a tree hugger, he's also trained.
Well, I could tell he was a tree hugger, come on, he loves that tree, I wanna tell him, pick it up and take it home.
Is it appropriate for me to ask a couple questions?
Sure it is.
I just, the suggestion of removing those, overextended branches, would that satisfy some of your concerns?
Well, I really don't know what he's going to do there. They have come out and pruned it and pruned it and pruned it. You know, because I've had nightmares over this tree for years, but they do. But one day, and I don't know how it happened, there was a wire going from my house across the street, and there was the tree in the middle of it, the branch, you know, and here's the wire. I didn't know the tree could do that.
So those big branches that are coming toward your house, if those are some major branches you would be talking about removing.
Well, they're over my driveway, and especially over the road, there's a lot, and when you have a storm, when you're in a storm, those things are blowing.
My other question was, you talked about you'd like to have a beautiful tree. If at some point, there was the option to plant a different tree in that area, would you
Yeah.
want another tree?
Yeah, cause he said it would, start off young, and I'm 81, now who's all gonna outlive who here? I mean, my nightmares will
I'm
be
with you
over,
there.
my nightmares will be over, but I'm not against trees, I love trees. You know, I love rocks, I love scenery, I love the nature, I love it. But I don't love it when I hear it raining outside and it's beating against my house and I look out in the old, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna, in the, sometimes it rains, I don't even know it, and he will tell me, the branches are down. I don't even wanna look whether they're, because they're in our driveway, they could hit our windshield, they could do damage.
Let's see, would it be a good option at this point if we tried what we're saying right now, cutting the branches off and then living with it for a while and just seeing how that goes? And then we could face, if you have issues with that for some reason,
Well, I'm
you
happy,
could come back.
that's a good suggestion, and I'll get to it, but I'm having, solar put in, and he looked over it, and he did not approve of either one of them, with the solar going in. And he was supposed to be at this meeting, but he probably ran over and was unable, because he was late at my meeting too. In the question I was gonna get back to, you had a question, I said I'd get back to.
Oh, yes, yes. If we went ahead, if the decision was to take off those big branches that he said and live with it for a while, and if that
Well-
didn't seem to work, you could always come back
Well,
and
could
talk
the
with
city
us.
put in writing that they'll replace my solar if that tree, yeah,
The city
I-
doesn't remove trees
Yeah.
public property to support solar. We've
It's
had
not
number
on
of
public
requests.
property.
No, we don't remove public trees
Hmm.
to support solar.
Yeah, yeah, I have solar and they're not removing trees for me.
And I wanted to put solar in my house and I have a bunch of trees and I live downtown.
Well, they can still put it in, you're
Yeah.
just not gonna get the full advantage.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Right. Yeah, and they can assess that for you.
But it might make it a little bit better with, if you're taking
Yeah.
larger branches off of it, at least, as a first step.
Yep. And the final pages of that packet, and I can give you one as well, when you'd like. Is both the longest day of the year and then the shortest day of the year modeled out based on the tree's height. And then where the shade would be cast, and then the length of the shadow. So the first page we have, let me just make sure that is correct. June 21st. Sunset is at 8:25 PM. Your roof faces predominantly west, so you don't get a whole lot of southern exposure. So the tree would be casting a shadow based on the assessment at around 2:45 PM. So you would be losing 6 hours, give or take, of sun in June, since sunset is at that 8:25 PM. The shortest day of the year is that final, and sunset is at 3:57 PM, which puts it very close to going down the horizon long before it gets interfered,
Yeah.
excuse me, by the tree that's in front of your home.
Plus there are no leaves that time of year.
Correct, yeah.
Mhm.
And then there's workarounds, there's different types of panels that you can install based on shading, split cell or bifacial.
What do you mean by that?
A panel only produces energy based on full exposure to sunlight, and then it gets degraded based on how much shade. And then there's certain panels that are cut in half based on a circuitry. And then if this lower half is shaded and the higher half still has sunlight, you're still gonna make full sunlight on this higher half. Whereas if it was a full panel without that split, you would make the lowest amount of energy based on even just a little deck of cards of
Mhm.
shade.
Mhm.
Your contractor can talk to you
Yeah.
more
they
about
can
that.
talk to you about it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your input. We appreciate it.
Alrighty,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good evening. So the question here, I think, is we will likely proceed with our normal process, which would be to remove those, especially where those are overextended, remove those overextended branches. That meets some of her concerns,
Mhm.
but not, we wouldn't remove this tree over its current condition. So would the board recommend that we vary from that normal procedure? Yeah, okay, okay. Thank you for the feedback. We appreciate
I
it.
support the tree hugger.
I will mention that it is an invasive species.
Yeah.
I have an invasive Norway maple in my
I-
yard, and as much as I hate it, it's a really well established tree and it's mature and it's doing a lot of good.
And we would never replace it with another invasive, you know what I mean?
No.
Yeah.
When the time comes,
It will come, yeah,
Yeah.
and it will die eventually.
and it sounds like there are some potential future issues that may cause it to come down
Right.
sooner rather than later, but, okay. All right.
If I may ask a question, is that esplanade big enough to support another tree at some point?
In addition to this.
No.
Yes, yes.
I mean-
It's a fairly wide esplanade. I did not measure it, but it's
Mm.
probably like 4 to 6 feet wide.
Mhm. Great, thank you.
Okay, moving on to brown tail moth.
So good news is this year, brown tail moth, statewide has really made a major downturn. We're seeing, I don't want to give a percentage, but probably 80-90% less nesting and active caterpillars than we saw last year. I did my, late winter nest count for Parks and Rec. We do brown tail moth injections through various parks with a subcontractor. Previously, we had been injecting 30 trees with Parks and Rec. This year, based on my count, we are only going to inject 3.
Wow.
So nests were still present. However, there was a high number of trees that actually had 0 nests in them, whereas last year, some trees were over 200 nests. So,
Well, that's good.
That little parasite did its thing.
Yeah, parasitic
Yeah.
wasps.
Parasitic
Ecosystem
wasps.
will come
That
back.
fungus, I think, we did see,
Oh,
like I said, the
fungus.
parasitic wasp, but I
Yeah.
think we saw a lot of fungus last year,
Ah,
yeah.
And how's this season going so far in regard to that fungus?
I think it's too
Yeah.
early
Too
to
early?
tell.
Yeah,
Cause you would see dead caterpillars with the fungus.
that's the only way we
Yeah.
know it's there, is the
Ah.
dead caterpillars, and they're not out of nest yet, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's still a good thing. There are spots in the state, reading the state reports, where there's still some hot, a lot of activity, but it's not here. Not that I don't care about other communities, but I'm happy it's not here.
Okay, moving on to less good news, Emerald Ash Borer.
Emerald ash borer is not in Bangor, that's good news.
I mean,
It has not been confirmed
Sure
in
no.
Bangor.
I have my eye on a couple trees that like, I can see little D-shaped things on them, but
Really?
like. Until I see something come out of it.
I'm always looking for the blonding, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that will be the
Yeah.
case.
And it was confirmed in,
Mount
is it
Desert.
Mount Desert Island?
Yep.
Yeah, just recently, so. Yeah. So our plan that's being worked on by Sophia Cameron, the master student, is coming to fruition. She is presenting that to her panel, what do I call it, advisory panel?
Yep.
Yeah, on May 9th at University of Maine. I don't know if there's any interest in anybody seeing that presentation. But I might be able to finagle an invitation if tree board members are interested. It's from 10 to 11 with discussion from 11 to 12.
I'm sorry, when is that?
That is the presentation of the Emerald Ash Borer
Right,
plan for the
but
city of
when?
Maine. When? Oh, I'm sorry, May 9th,
Thank you.
Friday, May 9th, 10 to 11.
Could we get her to come back and give it? again?
She is going, so this is her presentation to her panel. She gets feedback. She makes one last revision based on that feedback. Then it's kind of a finished plan. Then she comes here. She presents it to the tree board. She presents it to the council. And hopefully we get the council to adopt it into our plan. And from what I've read so far, pretty impressed with it. I think Ben's made it all the way through.
Yes.
I think I'm only 25 pages in at this point, but yeah, she's really done an incredible job.
Is
Very
it
happy with
doable, realistically doable? you
Yes,
think?
yes, and we made plans to proceed with the first step of her plan. Even though the plan hasn't been presented yet, so we will be injecting 85 trees,
83.
83 trees this spring. Most of them on the west side, closest where the most or the closest confirmed sighting is in Herman.
Hmm.
Kind of work our way away from that. We were gonna try to do, different areas of the city, and she's like, well, we know it's there, it's probably coming from there, it makes sense to protect them from there, so. Yeah, we're moving forward on that plan proactively. We did purchase a Arbor Jet this winter, so we have that. Our contractor who's teaching us how to do it ourselves has already purchased the pesticide, and we had a person or an employee who had his ornamental pesticide applicator's license, and he just gave us notice.
Mm.
So Ben has a test coming up,
No, I've already passed.
Already passed it, so Ben now, got his, not that we want the supervisor out doing all the applications, but it gets us through to the next employee. And we did just recently get an employee pass his core, and the next one he does might be the ornamental, yeah, so things are looking up for that. We are ahead of the curve based on what a lot of other places do. The hard part will be trying to work those recommended removals into our removal plan. But we did just put out a bid on tree removals, and it looks like we are likely to have a new contractor, so we'll see how that goes.
So are we proactively removing some as well?
That plan calls for proactive removal, because if we wait until they're infected now,
We're gonna get-
we're over, overwhelmed with them, so. And they identified ones that are in worse shape as they did their inventory last year, so. It makes sense to start with those anyways, because the more damaged they are, the more likely they are to attract emerald ash borer. A damaged tree will, so. Yeah.
The 83 that would be treated 1 year, is it gonna be a 3-year cycle, where there'd
3-year
be
cycle.
another 83 the next year, so.
Yep. Yeah.
Potential we could save.
It'll be 3-year cycles as we go.
That's 10% of the ash trees saved. If we get to 200 plus.
Her plan, from what I'm reading, recommends that we consider more.
Yeah.
For treatment. And
But is it a one-time treatment or a
the
repeated treatment?
3-year, yeah,
Okay.
so every 3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Until, what do they call it, the deadly wave or
Yep,
something, the
the
first.
economic threshold.
Yeah,
basically.
once the wave passes, then you can span that out to like every 6 years or
Yeah.
something, yeah, so.
Does the plan talk about the brown ash out in the city forests
Yes.
at all? Does it talk about saving them at all, or because they're more
Mhm.
susceptible?
No, it talks about trying to save them for seed.
Seed
stock.
stock and.
But not necessarily treating them,
No,
treating a couple.
She does mention treating stands, because then it gives an origin for, if it was to have a stand killing disturbance, then you at least have one that can still produce
Right.
seed, so.
Right, that would be good to do, because then.
I think her first recommendation is to get a good inventory, because I remember seeing your comment in there. That's planned for the summer, some of the forest inventory, so, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
'Cause the-
she's, what I've seen so far, she's pretty comprehensive. She's given it a lot of thought.
Do we have black ash and brown ash out there, or just?
Black ash and brown ash are one and the same.
Okay,
Just depends on where you live, whether
Yeah.
you call it black or brown.
Yeah. so those are the ones that the Penobscot used to make baskets out of, so
Baskets.
that is
Mhm.
an
Right.
important reason to save some.
Yeah.
As many as we can.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. It's terrible news, but it's good to hear we have a plan.
It's good that we're being proactive instead of waiting until it's here, or
Right.
until it's overwhelming. So,
And is spruce budworm at all an issue for this part of the state?
is it a problem for us? We haven't even had this discussion yet.
The forested tracts that we have, that would be an issue, would be the city forest.
Mhm.
And then the brown woods, but principal planted trees throughout the city. Very, very few, as we were saying in the beginning, we have very few evergreen plantings, so spruce and fir. Fir, I don't think we have more than 10 probably planted.
Urban forestry management plan. How's that RFP?
Still, the RFP is
I
still not
noticed
out.
Yellow highlights that look like they need to be.
Yeah, well, one of those was our original plan, and then we've done a lot of updating, so pretty much the final version is in there. It's still. And it's changed a lot since what we discussed in January. But I think it's ready to go, but it's sitting in purchasing, waiting for final approval.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly where that, I suspect it's being delayed because it's budget time. So, we had a lot of issues with how we needed to put the federal requirements into ours, how we needed to incorporate that. Waited on Maine Forest Service for quite a while. got back an answer that was less than clear. We just proceeded, with what we thought was best, which added a lot to it. But instead of referencing a contract, we actually added the pieces in, so those are in there. And then we found that our grant was not being dispersed, so everything was on hold for a considerable amount of time. We did get 3 weeks ago, got the word that we did not need to hold, we could move forward. So then it moved from where it is now to the finance director's desk. And now we're just waiting that final approval. She expects that it's gonna be out anytime.
Okay.
I think we're ready. I did get a email from, was the name that was with us 2 meetings ago at our workshop, not Tyler Tree, the tree company anyways, that talked to us about.
Davy.
Davy, that's it, Davy Tree. The gentleman who spoke with us before, he did reach out and say, hey, you guys move forward with this, what's the plan? So I think they are interested in bidding, and then we'll see who else is. Should be seeing it anytime now, and I feel like we have a good RFP. We covered our bases, and we're gonna meet federal requirements as well as state or our requirements, so. Fingers crossed, we see that posted soon. I remember I'm looking back, writing the notes for the meeting going, oh yeah, we're gonna have that up by the end of January.
I mean, the rate our government's becoming more efficient, I'm surprised we've done anything. Not our government. The government.
Yes.
I don't know how to phrase that. Tree City USA application,
Just got word back, was it Friday, I think?
did we get growth?
We are approved, we are another Tree City, or we're Tree City for another year. We got a growth award,
Yay,
finally, finally.
What does that mean?
That's just another little,
yeah.
another little accolade.
Maybe
We,
they'll give us
we
a little
invested
sticker to go on.
more money in our tree program, and when there's like 12 or 15 different things you can do, and I think you have to meet 5 requirements. I submitted 7, so that there was no question if they say this doesn't, we would get it under that. So, yeah, I don't know how I've been screwing it up, but I didn't this time. So, we got a growth award, very happy with that, and that will be awarded to us when the state holds their Arbor Week celebration down in Augusta. So, looking forward to that.
That's it, unless there's new business.
Timing's pretty good, huh?
Yeah. Good job.
I refuse to run a meeting.
You did good.
I'm impressed.
A lot going on in forestry right now. We are losing, what I consider to be our shining star. He came in, got his CDL with us, got his, pesticide, 3 different pesticide application licenses, arborist, landscape arborist, utility arborist, certified professional logger. We've been told repeatedly that we are expecting too much from our employees to get all that certification and licensure. And he just blew it out of the park. Problem is, he wants to be up in a bucket. He wants to be climbing trees, things that we just don't do. He met his commitment for getting his CDL license. He stayed with us the period of time that we requested. And I talked to him when he gave his notice, his written notice, said, maybe you go out there and develop these skills that, are really valuable, and we expand our program to the point where you want to come back.
Right.
He's like, no, I like working here. He said, I just want to do more of that stuff. I said, well, we may be doing more of that stuff. So you never know what the future may bring. He's a good guy, and hopefully we see him back around again.
Cause we used to there used to be people out in buckets all the time.
Yeah, he wants to be climbing the trees and you know what I mean?
Which would
some
be
of the-
really cool. We have the trees that need it.
Yeah.
It's not like we don't have 70-80 foot trees that need pruning.
Our program, since Ben came on, has really expanded, and I think it's gonna do nothing but continue and support the mission of, tree growth and tree expansion in the city. So, yeah. We'll see. And we do, like I said, we have another person who we set timeframes to get these licenses, and he did not meet that, so I had to technically remove him from the arborist position. He's still assigned as a heavy equipment operator to the forestry division. But he, on his own time, and his own money, went out and took the test again. And then took the test again and passed the core exam, so, and that's really the tough one, that core exam, so. And when he passed it last week, I'll sign up for the next one, you know what I mean? So he's got the right attitude, and when he gets those licenses, then he can apply for that arborist position and be put back into it, but we just have a process we have to follow to go through, so. It's nice to have someone in there that wants to be in there and keep this program improving.
Yeah.
So.
Are there financial incentives or is it just a
Each
requirement?
one of those licenses is an additional stipend that they get, and that stipend they get paid whether they're plowing or
Mhm.
trimming a tree, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it does add on to their pay. It's anywhere from 25 to 50 cents an hour per stipend. So,
Well, since I've been on the tree board, there has been miraculous change in the last few years, thanks to both of you two, so.
I was attributing it to you, so.
I've been here for a while and none of the change was related to me. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that you two are putting in the work.
I think we both approach it from a service standpoint, you know what I mean? We're serving residents and this is part of our job, so. Sometimes there's a lot of competing interests, you know what I mean,
Right.
trying to get everything done, but yeah, very happy to see the way the program is moving and the support from the board, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, without anything else, we're now 2 minutes over, so
It's my fault.
we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.